The scent of blood, iron, and ancient incense was the first thing that hit my senses. The second thing was the weight of the massive, black steel broadsword resting against my knee. I blinked against the dim torchlight of a stone dungeon. In my previous life, just 10 seconds ago, I was Lin Wei, a 30-year-old freelance editor sipping cold coffee in a cramped apartment. Now, I was sitting on a carved stone seat, wearing heavy dragon-embossed armor, surrounded by kneeling imperial soldiers. General Yen, a sharp voice whispered to my left. An old lieutenant with a jagged scar across his cheek bowed low. The execution block is prepared. The treasonous fifth prince, Prince Xie, awaits your blade. The emperor's decree is clear. Terminate his line before the sun rises. A sudden wave of foreign memories crashed into my skull like a tidal wave. I hadn't just transmigrated. I had landed straight inside the Crimson Dynasty, a famous web novel I edited 3 years ago. Worse yet, I wasn't the heroic main character. I was General Yen Jing, the ruthless, cold-blooded executioner known as the blood-spilled Hound of the North. In the original novel, Yen Jing brutally executed Prince Xie in Chapter 1, triggering a decade-long bloody civil war that ended with the entire empire burning to the ground. Prince Xie was supposed to be a frail, tragic boy who never spoke a word of anger, loved by the common people. If I execute him, the rebels will hunt me down in Chapter 5. If I spare him, the emperor will execute me for treason tomorrow morning. I thought, cold sweat dripping down my back under the heavy helmet. Bring the prisoner, I commanded, forcing my voice to sound like crushed gravel. The heavy iron doors creaked open. Dragged in by 2 guards, chained in heavy silver cold iron, was Prince Xie. He looked exactly as the novel described. Long, silk-like white hair falling over a pale, impossibly handsome face, wearing torn white robes stained with soot. His amethyst eyes were downcast, trembling like a fragile flower caught in a winter storm. General! Xie's voice was barely a soft breath, tragic and delicate enough to make any human heart bleed. If my death brings peace to the empire, I do not blame you. The guards in the room lowered their eyes, visibly weeping for the tragic prince. He really is an angel, I thought, feeling a pang of guilt. I have to save him. I'll fake his death, smuggle him out of the capital, and I took a step forward, leaning down to grab his chin so I could whisper my escape plan. But as my face drew close to his, out of view from the guards behind me, Prince Xie slowly raised his eyes. The delicate, teary expression vanished instantly. His amethyst eyes narrowed into 2 razor-sharp, pitch-black pools of cold arrogance. A tiny, dangerous smirk played at the corner of his lips. Before I could react, Xie leaned into my ear and whispered in a voice so smooth and dangerous it sent a chill straight down my spine. "You're 5 minutes late, General. Did you have trouble reading my forged execution order? Or are your legs just getting old?" I froze. Wait. What? My brain completely short-circuited. Forged execution order. The book said Prince Xie was an innocent, helpless victim. He was supposed to be a soft-spoken scholar who cried when birds fell out of trees. "Clear the room," I snapped, turning to my guards. Lieutenant Gao hesitated. "General?" The Emperor instructed. I said, "Clear the room." I roared, releasing the terrifying aura of the original General Yen Jing. The guards scattered instantly, slamming the thick oak doors shut. The moment the heavy latch clicked into place, Prince Xie let out a long, bored sigh. He rolled his shoulders, and with an effortless click, his wrist flexed, and the heavy silver locks holding his hands fell completely off. He caught the iron chains silently, tossing them onto the stone floor like trash. "Ah, much better." Xie stretched his arms, dusting off his white robes. "Those cold iron cuffs are terribly tacky. Now, General Yen, shall we get to the point?" I backed up 3 paces, my hand gripping the hilt of my broadsword. You unlocked cold iron with your bare hands? Who are you?" Xie tilted his head, walking casually toward my carved stone chair and sitting down on it as if he owned the entire fortress. He crossed his long legs, resting his chin on a hand. Oh, don't play dumb, Yenjing. You and I have been playing chess for 6 months. Xie smiled, his eyes glinting with terrifying intelligence. You pretended to be the Emperor's loyal hound while secretly leaking army supplies to my rebel forces in the south. I pretended to be a pathetic, helpless prince so my tyrant brother wouldn't poison my tea. It was a wonderful performance by both of us. A 6-month chess game, leaking rebel supplies. My internal screaming could have shattered glass. The original General Yenjing was a double agent. The novel never mentioned this. The author left out the entire backstory. Right? Of course. I choked out, trying to keep my stoic, terrifying face intact. I was merely testing your reaction. Naturally, Xie chuckled, reaching out to pick up a porcelain teacup from my desk. He took a small sip, swirled it around, and casually poured it onto the floor. The tea hissed violently as it touched the stone, eating away at the rock like acid. Poison, Xie noted idly. Your Lieutenant Gao is working for the Prime Minister. He tried to poison you before the execution so you couldn't speak. Lucky for you, I noticed the smell of nightshade root when I was brought in. I stared at the smoking hole in the stone floor. I had transmigrated into a death trap. Everyone in this room was playing 4D chess, and I was just an overworked graphic designer trying not to cry. So, Xie murmured, leaning forward, his amethyst eyes locking onto mine with hypnotic intensity. Now that we know the Prime Minister has moved his pawns, are we sticking to Plan B, my dear General? Plan B, I repeated slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Remind me of your interpretation of Plan B, just to ensure we are aligned. Prince Xie let out a quiet, melodic laugh that sent shivers up my arms. Still as cautious as ever. Plan B is simple. We burn this dungeon to the ground, pretend you died fighting my escape, and retreat to the northern frontier where your Black Armor Legion is waiting. Right? Burning things. My favorite. I lied smoothly. Within 10 minutes, Xie had drawn a tiny dagger from his sleeve, sliced open a hidden compartment in the dungeon wall, and pulled out 2 black cloaks and a flask of military oil. The man moved like a ghost, deadly, calculated, and completely terrifying. Spread the oil, Xie instructed softly. I'll light the spark. As I splashed the oil across the wooden racks, I kept sneaking glances at him. In the original book, this character died alone in the dark, weeping for a family that betrayed him. But standing here, setting fire to his own prison with a dark, satisfied smile on his handsome face. He was breathtaking, dangerous but captivating. Boom! The northern wing of the prison erupted in flames. Amid the screaming of guards and the ringing of alarm bells, Xie grabbed my wrist. His hand was surprisingly warm, his fingers wrapping firmly around mine as he dragged me through a hidden ventilation tunnel beneath the stone floor. We burst out into the cool night air of the capital city. The capital at midnight was alive with golden paper lanterns, the smell of roasted skewers, and crowded night markets. We blended into the busy crowd, slipping deep black hoods over our heads. I leaned against a wooden pillar in an alleyway, catching my breath. We made it out. Of course we did, Xie said, standing right in front of me. The golden light of the market lanterns flickered across his sharp jawline and long silver hair. Did you doubt me, Yenjing? I never doubt you, Your Highness, I said instinctively, using my best stoic villain tone. Xie stepped closer, pinning me gently against the wooden pillar. The scent of sandalwood and snow washed over me. He reached up, his long, slender fingers gently brushing a speck of black soot off my cheekbone. You're acting strangely tonight, General, Xie whispered, his face inches from mine. His amethyst eyes searched my face deeply. Usually you complain about my methods. Tonight you just stared at me. Did the sight of my fake tears in the dungeon disturb you that much? My throat went bone dry. I simply realized that you are far more dangerous than I gave you credit for. A soft, genuine smile, completely devoid of malice, curled Xie's lips. I am only dangerous to our enemies, Yenjing. To you, I am whatever you need me to be. 3 months later, the northern frontier was a vast, frozen expanse of snow-covered mountains and massive black stone fortresses. This was the territory of the Black Armor Legion, my military command. The capital thought General Yenjing was dead, killed in the fiery prison break. The corrupt emperor and the scheming prime minister were currently tearing each other apart in a bloody political war, exactly as Xie had planned from the very beginning. Meanwhile, inside the warmest hall of the northern fortress, things were chaotic. General, my lieutenant, Gao, whom we had successfully re-educated and turned into our errand boy, rushed into the room carrying a stack of reports. The southern merchants have arrived with the silk shipments, but Prince Xie is currently reorganizing the entire regional tax code. I sat at my desk, rubbing my temples. Is he breaking anything? No, sir. He actually doubled our trade revenue in 3 weeks and taught the frontline scout commanders how to play high-stakes poker. I sighed, but a smile slipped onto my face. In just 90 days, Prince Xie had turned my brutal, gloomy military camp into a thriving, wealthy paradise. The soldiers adored him. They didn't call him the traitor prince. They called him the Mind of the North. The heavy doors of the study creaked open, and Xie walked in. He was wrapped in a thick, dark fur cloak that contrasted beautifully with his silver hair. He carried 2 silver cups of warm, spiced wine, sliding one onto my desk before sitting gracefully on the corner of my table. You look stressed, my Lord General, Xie teased, taking a slow sip from his cup. I am managing an army, a territory, and a secret mastermind who keeps rewriting imperial laws, I replied, leaning back in my chair. It's exhausting work. Ah, but you love it, Xie smirked, leaning down until his face was level with mine. The dark, scheming strategist was gone, replaced by a man looking at me with pure, unyielding affection. And besides, the empire is almost ours. The capital will fall within the month without us firing a single arrow. And what happens when you take the throne, Your Highness? I asked quietly, looking into his purple eyes. Will you still need a bloody executioner by your side? Xie's smile softened. He reached down, taking my gloved hand and lacing his fingers through mine, pulling my hand up to rest against his chest, right over his beating heart. I never needed an executioner. Yenjing, Xie murmured softly, his voice echoing in the quiet room. I needed a partner, someone who wouldn't break under my dark plans, someone who looked at my worst instincts and didn't run away. He leaned down, pressing his forehead gently against mine. When I take the dragon throne, you won't be standing behind me as a bodyguard, Xie whispered. You will be sitting right next to me, the Empress of the North and the master of my heart. I laughed softly, wrapping my arms around his waist and pulling him close as the snow fell peacefully outside the window. I had transmigrated into a deadly novel expecting to die on page 1, but instead, I helped the smartest villain in the world rewrite history.